Woodland Warrior fans, on your feet.
All right. Again, good morning. My name's Don Mounts. I've had the pleasure of serving as the statistician for our fantastic basketball team back in 1972. And the folks have asked me to come back and MC things and wanted to just welcome you all here for this great activity. We've got a lot of things going on that I'll go over with you here in a couple of minutes. First off, I want to say a couple of thank yous to the committee that kind of put this together, and I want to make sure we properly recognize those. A couple of them on the team. Ron Tombaugh did a great job of organizing things. And Chuck Glisson kind of was the spearhead for it all, so we appreciate Chuck doing all of this. And in our class of 1973, the greatest class in the history of Woodland High School, I may add, in our class, we had a philosophy of 3PK, that if we want something done, we get Patty, 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 or Kathy to do it, all right? So we've got a couple of the Patties here, and we've got the Kathy, but we want to thank Kathy Missel for putting this all together, kind of organizing the dinner and everything, because if they'd left it up to the three guys, we'd have never got this far, all right? So thank you for Kathy, all right? With that, we'd like to have an invocation, and Ron Tombaugh, we'd like Ron to come forward, please. Ron?
Thank you, Don. And hopefully everybody celebrates this week, today, and it doesn't turn out to be a super spreader event, so try to be conscious of everybody around you. Just a sign of the times. Before I give the invocation, I'd like to lift up the 6 members of our class or our team that have gone on before us. The 6 members are Sandy Van Duzer, Joe Kudrick, Dave Henson, Don Wampler, and 2 coaches, Coach Jim Warfield and Coach Roy Lathrop. So I'm going to have a moment of silence in their memory, please. Our Heavenly Father, we thank you for this opportunity to come back to be with old friends, make new friends, and to celebrate the accomplishments that this group put together years ago, and surprised a lot of people by what we could do as a team. Everybody contributed in many ways. And we thank you for the lessons we have learned that we've been able to use throughout life as we move forward in our own vocations. all things come from you. And we bless this food that we're about to eat, the farmers and ranchers that grew it, the processors and transportation people that got us here, and the hands that prepared it. In your name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Ron. All right, so here's kind of our agenda for what we're going to do today. I'll have some opening remarks to talk about our season and the team. Then we're going to settle in for lunch. I want to mention that we have our friend Charles Van Horn here. Charles is going to be photoing and videoing everything. And we're going to have a Facebook page and a YouTube page channel and try to put all of this so we can capture it for posterity. We've lost too many people that we love, and we want to make sure we keep it, okay? So after we're done eating, I would like all the players to come forward one by one and share your thoughts, what you remember, what you've been doing, catch us up on life, and tell us a little bit about that. And then the cheerleaders, we'd like them to come up forward. And then anyone else associated with the team or just a fan, if you'd like to come up and share your memories, because we all have great memories to share. So after our lunch, we'll kind of bring everybody up to one by one to share their thoughts, and so we can capture that for the future, okay? So that's kind of what we're going to do for today. And I want to tell you a little bit about the history that many of you know, many of you don't know. We actually started off as a basketball powerhouse in 8th grade at Woodland. If you don't remember, we made the 8th grade Final 8. We made the state tournament in 8th grade, and we lost to Petersburg. But we did make the state tournament, and it kind of set a foundation for where we went from there. And I'm personally the most responsible for us making the Final 8 at the state tournament in our junior year because of something that happened in the Woodland gym. Is that I was never much of an athlete, but I had one attribute that I could do. I could throw the hell out of a football. Roy Lathrop had me throw 10 balls one time, and I got one 72 yards. But I wasn't a quarterback. Jerry can make decisions and read defenses. All I could do was throw it. All right, so I was never much of a ball player in that regard. But I used to mess around in the gym, and I'd throw up hook shots from half court, three-quarter court, and I'd make 2 or 3 out of 10. And Jerry Ross saw me one day, and he said, "Hey, we should see if Don wants to play basketball." And my brother from another mother, one of my best friends growing up, Jerry Highland, he's standing next to Jerry Ross. And he said, "No, that's not a good idea." And Ross said, "Well, why not?" And Jerry said, "Don, dribble the ball over here." And I'm going. And Jerry Ross said, "I could use a good statistician." So I became the statistician, kept all of the stats and the information for the team. And Mrs. Ross, if you've watched her video, online, and she's a magnificent lady. She could not make it today. She's very sorry about that, nor could Coach Jerry, who's in an assisted living facility down in Houston. But they credited a lot of the work that was done along with Coach Warfield. Coach Warfield scouted a lot of the teams ahead of the time when these guys played. And Coach Ross always used to say, our secret weapon is his scouting reports. So these guys studied as hard for the upcoming opponents as they did play them hard. And that's what a team does. They put everything together. And I also had the pleasure of being the disc jockey on the bus. If we won the game, Coach Ross used to let me play music. If we didn't get no music. All right? But I couldn't play it in the locker room. If any of the players, remember Roy Lathrop always played one song before every game. Anybody remember what it was? He was crazy about jazz music, and he played Night Train. And he'd crank it up in the locker room, and Roy'd be dancing around. And that was kind of our intro music to get going. And Roy also gave us the Woodland chant that we used in all the games. How many of you remember this? Oh! Well, that was Roy. Roy started that. Kind of got that from Johnny Carson, I think. And Coach Ross, after our season, unfortunately Coach Ross left us. Kathy was pregnant, had their first child. They decided to move back to Bloomington to be near home so they could get some child care, as well as the fact that Coach was offered a $25 annual raise to come back and coach. And so they decided they might have a better opportunity in Bloomington working in insurance. And for those of you that didn't know, Coach Ross was captain of the baseball team and the basketball team at Illinois State University. He's in the Hall of Fame for both. And so he had a long, illustrious career. And I'm going to have the players, obviously, and the cheerleaders and everybody else. I want you to share your favorite moments. But I have to take this opportunity to share my favorite moment with you. We're playing Lexington at Woodland. And we're down by 1 point. And Coach Ross draws this intricate play up. And Lexington was really good. They had Dwayne Bilyeu, a big guy that went to Illinois State. Eddie Moore played with Jack Sikma down at Illinois Wesleyan. And so they were ahead by 1 point. And somehow the ball ended up in the hands of Don Wampler, our departed dear Donnie. Jerry Ross had a love-hate relationship with Don Wampler. Don Wampler was one of the most skilled people with a basketball you ever saw. He was like Pete Maravich. He cut his hair like Pete. He had the floppy socks, and he passed the ball behind his back and spun and twirled and drove Ross crazy. So Donnie gets the ball in the corner. There's just a few ticks left, and Donnie starts to make his move. And if you remember, we had these lavender shower towels at Woodland. I think Superintendent Dolio must have got a special deal on these towels because they were ugly. They were so ugly, none of us ever stole them to use for other purposes because we couldn't. It's like, no, I don't want that. So Coach Ross perspired so terribly in all the games. And if you didn't know, Coach Ross wore the same blazer every game, and he never had it dry cleaned during the season. So Miss Kathy Ross told me that the armpits under the coat, it was like the rings of a tree. If it was a real close game, they were real small. If it was a nervous game, there was a big wide one there. And Coach always had one of those shower towels over his shoulder because he perspired so bad. All right, so the Lexington game. Few seconds left. Donnie's got the ball. He's shucking and jiving. And he starts to make his move, and Coach Ross takes that towel, and he's beating it on the gymnasium floor. No, Donnie, no, no, no. Donnie goes in, makes a double pirouette, puts up a reverse layup, hits it, and we win the game. Automatically, Ross goes, yeah, had him all the way. And I looked at Coach, and I said, really, Coach? And he said, shh. I said, all right, so the secret has now been shared. All right. And I think one of the other secret weapons was Keith Ruff, one of our local farmers. Is Keith here, by the way? Ron, did he make it? Keith went elk hunting all the time, and he had these elk's teeth. And he'd come in and have the players rub the elk's teeth. So the elk's teeth was the lucky charm. We had a lot of other things. John Weiss and I do you remember what we used to do before every game? We'd split an Almond Joy bar. Yeah, we split an Almond Joy bar. And say, yeah, here's the Almond Joy bar for the win. All right, so everybody had their superstitions. And one of the games, and I don't know which one yet, we haven't been able to find out the archives, but we had a teacher named Betzelberger. And Mr. Betzelberger decided to fill in for the videographer for the game because the regular videographer couldn't be there. So Coach Ross is settling in after breakfast at home, and he's ready to turn the video on. And Mr. Betzelberger had produced this, Cecil B. DeMille drama, had beautiful crowd shots, and the cheerleaders and the scoreboard didn't show any of the action on the floor. And so Jerry was kind of sitting there going, oh, well, I guess we'll watch next game next time. And Will Slager. Anybody never remember the name Will Slager? Ron, who was Will Slager?
Coach of Chicago Christian.
Yes. Chicago Christian coach came out in the paper and said, well, let me tell you, Pontiac's just a night stopover on our way to Champaign. We're not going to have any problem here. They got a player, one player, he shoots an old-fashioned one-handed set shot. This is really a Rube team. All right? How Ruby were they when they left? Okay? Yeah, and we'll talk a little bit about that later. I wanted to share with you, Tim Lathrop brought a picture of Mr. Ross and Mr. Lathrop with all the trophies that we won that year, and Tim's been gracious enough to donate that to the school. So Chuck, I think, is going to turn it over and give it to them tonight. And then Tim also had a collection. This was Mr. Lathrop's floor pass at Champaign, and we had some programs from Woodland that he shared. We're going to turn over. Kathy Missel, do you remember writing a poem? He's got a copy of your poem here. All right, and we have a bunch of letters from City Hall and telegrams. To those of you under 60, telegrams were what we used before email. All right. So just want to let you know. So again, these are going to get turned over to the school, and Chuck, you're going to take care of these, pal. All right. Couple of other things. Due to a great idea by Bob and Mike Harbeck, we've got a basketball up here that all the players have signed, and tonight we're going to have a silent auction before the game, and at the halftime when we bring all the players out, we're going to give the recipient the signed basketball that all the players did. So Bob and Mike, thank you very much. A great idea, very gracious of you. Thank you. You know, when a team wins, you figure they go into the season with a little gravitas. You know, that they got a little swagger. We're expected to win. Nobody expected this team to win. Nobody expected this team to win. We weren't even the best team on I-17. Winona was supposed to be the good team. They had a guy named Randy Barkey who was a very good center, played some great basketball. What did we do with Winona when we played them that year? Chuck, what did we do?
I think we beat them.
We beat them, didn't we? All right, good. And they thought, well, we'll at least be the best team in the county. Well, MDR is partially in our county, and MDR was supposed to be better than we were. And my good friend Ronnie Hoke was the star of MDR, and he went down and also played with Ed Moore and Jack Sikma at Illinois Wesleyan, and Minunk was supposed to beat us. Rod, what did we do with Minunk that year? We beat him. We beat him, didn't we? All right. And then you thought, well, at least we'd be the best team in a couple of counties, right? But that was Ottawa Marquette, and they had Big Bob Guyette. And Bob went on to play at the University of Kentucky, played in the NCAA tournament, played pro ball overseas. Great guy. He's now a dentist, a retired dentist in Phoenix. And I knew Bob, and I always tease him, who the hell's going to go to a 6'8" dentist with hands that can palm a basketball? But Bob became a dentist anyway, and he went on. And we never got to play Marquette that year. We played them the next year, and I don't think it turned out so well. But we didn't get to play Marquette that year. But we did get to play Lexington. Lexington was supposed to be the best team in our conference. And we split with them. We beat them at Woodland. We were talking last night. I did sportscasting for a number of years in college and professionally. Went around the state of Illinois and other states. I still think the Woodland gym is the most bodacious gym I've ever seen. It still holds its status. It's been there since 55, 54, and it still looks pretty darn good compared to a lot of these other gyms. So we split with Lexington, and then you thought, well, at least we'll be the best team in the region. And there was this despicable little school down to the southwest called Toluca. And Toluca had 3 brothers named Rinker, who, by the way, used to go to Woodland back in grade school. If none of you remember that, they went to Woodland. 3rd and 4th grade, they were at Woodland. And they lived out in Manville, part of the Manville Mafia. We weren't able to keep them, all right? So we lost pretty good to Toluca in the regular season. That was our first loss. We lost pretty good to Toluca. But we played them in the sectional tournament at Winona. Jerry, what did we do against Toluca? We beat them. All right. And then we played the number one team in the state, Chicago Christian, the juggernaut. Feel like I'm watching Hoosiers, right? Now, the number one team in the state, we got no chance. The coach said, yeah, just stop over on Wish 2 Champaign-Urbana. We might not even unload the bus at the hotel. We'll just let the players sleep in New Jersey and take them Champaign. We don't have a problem. And we played a phenomenal basketball game. That game wasn't more than 2 or 3 points, I don't think, the whole game, until it went to overtime. And in overtime, we fell down by 5 points. And I'm sitting there, the eternal optimist, going, oh, well, this is over. Yeah, we made a nice run of it, but just couldn't quite hold it off. And they had a little guard, and he fired the ball up from real deep twice. And I think we went down, Jimmy Kern, I think you got one of the baskets on the rebound, came down. And we cut it to 1. And then we ended up getting the ball back. And let me tell you about another friend of mine from the Manville Mafia, John Weiss. John would practice in his driveway for hours making these jump shots, right? So against Chicago Christian, in Pontiac, in the corner, he's wide open. There's nobody around him. And he rims it out. He misses the damn shot. All right? Coach Ross always used to say, the strength of this team is their heart and their head. John followed his shot like a good player should. Reached under the arm of Don Nort that went down and played basketball for Bobby Knight at Indiana. And I played in a celebrity golf tournament in Dayton, Ohio years ago. Coach Knight was at our table. We were talking basketball, and I says, well, I know of Don Nort. He played at Chicago Christian. And I told him the story about playing us and that we got the rebound away from Don Nort. And Bobby Knight's response was, yeah, he never got off his damn feet when he played for me either. So the heritage kind of came through. So John ducks under his arm, grabs the ball, puts it up, we win. We won that game, right, John? You sure we won that game, John? All right. Yeah, there were still 2 seconds on the clock. I was getting there, Mike. I was getting there. I was getting there. Okay. So they throw the ball down, try to do a tip in. They throw the ball down, try to get a tip in. They didn't get it. And the other player on that team, I can't remember, Jim, if you or Larry guarded him, Rob Kloss. Rob was the other forward. Oh, Ron did. Oh, right. So who had Nort? Sure as hell wasn't Weiss. No, okay. All right. you took turns. Well, Rob Kloss was on that team, and Rob was an All-American at Northwestern. So there were some good players that we knocked off that night. And it was just a great experience because it set the tone for what a warrior was. And I thought about this and I looked it up. You know, a warrior to me is twofold. You know, we have our Native American mascot. It used to hang, it still hangs in the gym, and that other one used to hang in the gym for years too. And it was in heritage of the Native American tribes of our areas, because we are Woodland. We're the Woodland School. We're named after the Woodland neighborhood, right up there by the school. And we are composed of 19 villages, municipalities, townships. If you want to count them up, I'll count them up with you sometime. But there's 19 institutions that came together to make Woodland. And Woodland was always very important to tie all this group together. And education was always important to tie all this group together. The Livingston County Academy was one of the first colleges in the state of Illinois. And it was in New Michigan outside of Manville in 1856. It's older than Illinois State. It's older than the University of Illinois. It only lasted 2 years. Yeah, Jerry was the captain of the team there, yeah. So, but we've always had a great heritage for education, and the school meant something to us, and it still does. And so the warrior mentality of being with your tribe, with your people, with your friends, and that's very evident today as we have that warrior mentality. The other part of being a warrior is focusing on teamwork. I don't think these guys were ever afraid to lose. I think what they were afraid of is to look in their teammate's eye and not give enough. And that's the warrior mentality. You know, we didn't see, some of us did, not all of us saw, all the zip zaps they used to run in the gymnasium back and forth. Ross loved those zip zaps. All the stairs you guys used to run, getting in shape. All the floor burns. You go in the locker room, they got big strawberries and burns on their sides and their arms from diving on the floor for loose balls. All the twisted ankles and knees. All the pain that they went through. Larry Adams, Larry's not here, is he? But where's Larry? Larry, I missed you. There you are. Sorry, I didn't see you, pal. All right. Fast moving. You played a game with a concussion and don't remember playing it, didn't you? Which game was it? The second one or the first one? Second half of the second game. Yeah. Larry played with a concussion, doesn't remember the second half. Hey, Larry, it wasn't that good. Wasn't that good, all right? Wasn't that good, all right? So you didn't miss much, all right? So, you know, all of that, the stowed fingers, the sore shoulders, we didn't see that. We saw the glory. And we enjoyed the glory, and they shared the glory with us. But it was their dedication to each other and to the community that made them warriors. All right? And they're still warriors. You watch the movie Hoosiers, you know, and Jimmy Chitwood at the end, they're deciding what to do. I'll make it. Every one of these guys was committed to make it. If you watch the movie Miracle about the U.S. Olympic hockey team, the coach in there has a famous speech where he said, great moments come from great opportunity. And that's what you have. These guys had a great opportunity, and they set a standard for this region. Now, I have to throw in a codicil before I forget. We did have a girls' basketball team that actually won the state championship in a co-op. Barbara's nodding because your niece was on the team, right? Yeah, okay. I didn't forget. Don't get me in trouble. Oh, and also you. All right. But this was at a time when basketball was just splitting. This was the first small school tournament. And Chicago had always dominated, and Peoria had always dominated, and none of the small schools ever had a chance. And for us to get to Champaign was important. Joe DiMaggio, who was the great center fielder for the New York Yankees for years, they're playing at the end of the year. The Yankees had already sewn up the American League Championship like they did oftentimes. They're playing a nothing game with Cleveland in Yankee Stadium at the end of the year. They're ahead about 8-0 late in the game. No big deal. DiMaggio gets up at bat, rips one to the gap, hits first base, and decides he's going to stretch it to a double. And he's tearing around first base, and he slides into second just ahead of the ball. Big cloud of dust. He knocks the second baseman over. The second baseman said, geez, Joe, you guys are already in the playoffs. This doesn't mean anything. And DiMaggio pointed to center field, because that's where all the little poor Italian kids in New York sat. And he said, they've been collecting bottle caps and pop bottles and scrap drives to get a quarter together so they could come here. He said, I didn't want them to forget the day they saw me. Okay? These guys never wanted you to forget the day you saw them. That, want to get some of the players to come up and share their thoughts. Again, we've lost a few. Jerry, do me a favor, start us off. Come on up here. You. Come on. Come on up here.
I want to thank everybody, actually. This is the first time I've been to one of these things, and I've missed seeing everybody for so long. And I just want to say thank you very much. Back to that year, I don't remember a whole lot about it. I really don't. I never started a game until like 6 games left to go in the season. Chuck Hayward started most of the time that year, and he did a great job. I went and talked to Ross and Roy Lathrop, and they says, Jerry, you got to work your butt off. So that's what I did. I tried, and I worked my butt off, and finally, I think Chuck might have got a turned ankle one night. I can't remember who we played, but
I'm like you, I don't remember either.
yeah, but I got my chance to start, and it just worked out. The rest of the year I started and had a great time. Of course, these guys, they'd make anybody have a good time. They were good basketball players, good people. After that, Chuck, listen, you want to come up here? I'm done. Thank you, guys. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much for attending. We do appreciate it. When I think Bob and Mike Harback actually came up with the idea, and they had floated it to Woodland. Woodland had said graciously, yes, we'd love to honor the team. I don't know how my name got turned in, but somehow they said, well, Chuck can organize it. Chuck doesn't organize very much. But it has been an honor, just as much as it was an honor to play with all of my teammates, to remember back to Woodland, like Don talked about with Woodland. Woodland prepared us for college, prepared us for life. You were surrounded by teachers, people that cared for you, and they openly cared for you. It wasn't like, oh no, I liked that kid, but I never told him. When I was talking to Tim Lathrop, I said, I could tell you some stories about your dad. And I shared this with his mom at his dad's wake. And it's not about basketball, so sorry, let me diverge for a little bit. It was in football. And Coach Lathrop always had the linemen, okay? And if you were a lineman for Coach Lathrop, you were one of his boys. And you could do almost anything wrong, and he'd just kind of look the other way. Well, one game, I was playing on the defensive line, and I got to the quarterback just a hair late. Laundry all over the place, Guy goes, late hit on quarterback, 72, 15 yards. Well, that didn't deter me, and I wasn't always the smartest or fastest guy. Second time around, I was just that close. Hit him again, another 15 yards. Well, you'd think that I would have learned my lesson. My father always said I was kind of stubborn. Not kind of. I got a third 15-yard roughing the passer. Roy calls me over. Listen, get on over here. Now, it was a different time. Now you have a coach and they say, well, you could have done that better. Oh, he was just so hard on that guy, Well, Coach Lathrop grabbed my face mask and he's going, what aren't you getting about this? And my neck is like on a swivel. And I'm thinking, well, yeah, I should have known better, but maybe I'll get a little sympathy when I get home. So I get home, and my father goes, you are lucky that Coach Lathrop got a hold of you before I did. So what I'd like to end with is I want to thank you. You guys are all family to me. When Ron talked about the deceased, I feel like I always had a personal touch with Dave Henson, Joe Kudrick, Don Wampler, Sandy. And I miss them, and I know that they're looking down upon us, smiling, and probably willing to share a few good words from us. So thank you much.
I don't know how many of you have seen the articles in the Times on, was that Wednesday, I guess? Tuesday, Wednesday, something like that. A writer got a chance to interview several of us. And looking back on 72, it was a special time. And as they say in the movie Titans, it was our time. We were individuals that played as a team. We all had our own roles, and we all knew what those roles were. And we meshed together for a common goal. And Coach Ross instilled in us just be able to compartmentalize the task at hand and pull through. He taught us patience, discipline, some more than others. And one of the things that I remember about that year, all in general, was the tremendous support we had from the community. Case in point, of course, the Chicago Christian game. When it was over, I don't think any of the players touched the floor for 30, 40 minutes. And I went the next year when Toluca played against St. Anne, when they had Jack Sikma. They got done with the game, they shook hands, they walked off like it was the middle of December game that didn't count for nothing. And it just, the support that we've gotten from the community has been tremendous. So thank you very much.
I'm not quite long-winded like Chuck is, so we're just going to get over. I like the group of guys we had. There was no superstars on this team. We all had our own jobs, and we all did it. And the reserves made the starters, and it made the team. And I'd like to thank Coach Ross and the two that we've missed. And there's a guy sitting over here. Three of us had a privilege of being coached by. He was kind of mean to us, Buzz Groom. We appreciate you. But like I say, everybody had their jobs, and we did it, and I appreciate everybody coming out, and we had a whole bunch of support that year and made our team better. Thank you.
So, at my age, I have trouble remembering what I had for breakfast yesterday, let alone 50 years ago. So I would take with a grain of salt what some of these stories you're hearing, but it's great memories, and I'm really glad to see a lot of people I haven't seen for quite a while. And thanks to Chuck and Ron, especially for organizing this, and Don for hosting. And so I just have a couple of stories that aren't from that year, but have come around since then. One is that I just retired this past July from Loyola University after 34 years there, and I see Gene Gaspardo here, who also retired from Loyola after a long teaching and administrative career there as well. Loyola's had some pretty good basketball success the last few years, and you probably have seen them on TV, and you probably saw or read about or heard about Sister Jean. And I can tell you, she's, I think, 101 now, and I can tell you that she is just as she appears to be, that she's a wholehearted fan, and she loves her boys. So I thought, just in the last few days, maybe we should have had a Sister Jean. I knew a lot of nuns from St. Anthony's, and if you went to Catholic grade school, those nuns could be pretty fierce. But I could just see them, holding hands before the game starts, and we'll pray for the other team, but not as much as we're going to pray for Woodland, and who knows what would have happened. So that was one of my thoughts. Another thought I had was my wife. I've lived in Chicago for 34 years now, or 35 years, and my wife is part of a non-denominational Bible study in our neighborhood near Midway Airport in Oak Lawn, actually. And after being part of it for many years, I discovered that one of her companions was a woman by the name of Helen Nort. And so I asked her, ask her if she's got a son named Don. And yeah, she does. And also, by the way, she's a great baker and a delightful person, very delightful. I think she's in a nursing home now at her advanced age, but so then I said, well, ask her if she remembers anything about Streeter Woodland. No, she doesn't remember anything about that, so we must have blanked out that memory for her anyway. But again, thanks to everyone. As Ron said, we had great community support at that time, and even now, I think you can still see the support from this small community. And as that quote in the paper said, it's kind of crazy that people want to still talk about and remember these stories, but I really appreciate it, and I love hearing the stories, and they're going to, I know, trigger some memories in me as well. And thanks again for being here.
Hello everyone, I'm Tim Ross, and I'm here with my dad, the coach of the 1972 state tournament Woodland Warriors. We really wish we could be there to help celebrate this special evening with y'all. We know there's a lot of fun festivities planned. There'll be a lot of stories shared. Dad has shared a lot of stories from that magical season with us. We know it meant a lot to him, and I know he wishes he could be there as well. But we know it's going to be such a special night, and just congratulations on the 50th anniversary. Dad, is there anything you want to tell the team?
As far as that season goes, the highlight of my coaching career was that beating Chicago Christian, got out of the state tournament, representing Streeter Woodland, and got out of it. Still think about it to the day. Congratulations, guys. I love y'all, and sometime more we'll be down sure. That's all I can say right now.
Congratulations.
Mrs. Losey's here, and you just turned 29, right? Mrs. Losey kept me and probably most of the players in school because she would always cover for us whenever we did something stupid. And she did a good job at that, so thank you for. There you go.
Well, I guess the thing I remember the most is Chicago Christian. How cocky they were. They come down thinking they were going to state, and we made them go home. But I enjoyed playing with all the guys, and we worked hard all the time. So, and those zip zaps, those could have killed me. But yeah, that's about all I got to say. So, all right, thanks. All right.
Well, I thank you too for coming, and just as far as experience, great team, great coaches, great community to get to come in front of. We got some even alumni players that showed up here today too, so came a few years after us. But one of my memorable moments was still watching John Weiss follow a shot and coming in there and scoring that. That was just like Ron said. I mean, it was pandemonium for a half hour afterwards, so that was exciting. But that's about it. My memory's kind of fading too, so.
Well, I have lots of memories, and I don't know what I did yesterday, but I do remember this basketball team. And I think between the support of all the local people and Coach Ross, in my opinion, might have been the best coach has ever coached me. And I really believe that this team would have never accomplished what it did without Coach Ross. And I didn't know what this team was going to be like. I was always fortunate to have a lot of teammates that were very good. They would share responsibility. They would take responsibility. But I thought this team might be pretty good. And when I thought this team would be good, I'll give you the example that set me apart from thinking, yeah, we'll be okay. Coach Ross somehow got us to scrimmage the Streeter High School out at Woodland. Not a lot of people may know this. Well, we kicked their butt. And we're a small school, as we all know. They are not. I thought, you know, I think Ross is right. This team could do something. And Ross worked us and worked us and worked us. And everyone on this team worked hard and had everybody's back. And so it's been, for me, a real honor to be on that team and a privilege to play with everybody. And I really want to thank everyone who's here and everyone who has put this together. Go Woodland.
Now, these guys were a lot of fun to be around. I don't know if they pick up after themselves yet today. I know they didn't back then. It was a great season. I can remember a couple of them that I really, really remember, and I don't know, was Herscher game. Probably nobody it was colder than inside that gym that night. I don't know if the furnace was off, but me and Coach Ross and Coach Lathrop was standing there talking, and we could see our breath. We thought, whew, we got our butt kicked that night, but it was, I don't know if anybody else remember that game, but it was cold in there. It was December. I see the thing in the paper, it was like December 18th, so could be, but I think it was a Saturday too. So maybe they had their thermostats cut back for the weekend, but another one was the Lexington game at Lexington. Place was packed. My dad came late, tried to get him in. No way, they wouldn't let you. I even tried to sneak him in a back door. That place was packed that night. You couldn't, they were turning people away. That was amazing, the people that got in that gym that night. And of course, the Chicago Christian game is definitely by far the fairy tale of the whole season. But Johnny, thank you. what, Coach Ross would be real happy how you worked and followed that shot. So, yeah, it was fun being around these guys back in '72. That was cool. All right, thanks.
This is David Reed coming to you from Mesa, Arizona. I just wanted to say I appreciate being made a part of this wonderful celebration of a very important part of our high school experience. For me, it was an exciting time to be part of, as a little 10th grader, not even 16 yet, but to be an assistant manager, so to speak, to Mike, and to be part of that. And every game that I went to or missed, I was with the team and really believed in what they were doing, just like the rest of the Woodland family. So again, I appreciate being made a part of this, and I hope you all enjoy the celebration as you've earned it, and the memory will always live on. And for those we've lost and for those that remain, God bless and Godspeed. Thanks.
I don't have a whole lot to say because I don't have much of a memory left. I just remember it was a great time, a fun time, and that's about all of it. I had great girls, a great team, and we had a whale of a basketball team. Fun time, and I don't have any memories. I'm old. But I know I sure appreciated the years that I had at Woodland. It was a great school. I loved most of the time. I had a few that didn't like me, but that was okay. I lived through it.
Well, I think you've got
We just-
something. You've
we
got
just
something
wanted-
coming from you on behalf of the cheerleaders.
To say
Oh,
thank you.
well, thank you. Thank you. You're welcome. Thank
She kept us between the lines, right?
you. Yes.
Yeah, she kept us out of trouble. And, we wanted to make sure that, everybody reflected on the fact that we lost Sandy, but she was a part of our team, and we know she's here in spirit, so keep that in mind. What I remember most vividly, I guess, is the community spirit, and I think that's been touched on several times today. The fact is that as the weeks went by, and we were winning, and more people were attending, and we had pep rallies at the end of the day, and we were filling up the bleachers, and every student that could come to the games started coming to the games, and it was the junior high, the elementary school, the community, the grandparents, the neighbors, everybody came out, and that when we would go away, on the pep buses were just filled to the max, we would occupy a tremendous section in those gyms, and we were so loud, and that's what John was saying. He said, don't you remember the Winona gym and the Toluca gym? And I think Mike talked about how packed it was, and then of course how tremendously loud it was at Pontiac when we won. But I think taken away from that, it was the friendships that we also connected with, and how those are still with us today. And just a sidebar, so after the season was ended, we were all so loud, and everybody was cheering, and it was great, but I started having issues with my throat. And so I went to an ENT, and the doctor said, well, you're a cheerleader. You strained your vocal cords. Don't you know you're not going to be able to talk for 3 to 4 weeks? And of course, that was the biggest challenge for me of all, was not talking for 3 or 4 weeks. But yes, it was wonderful to be a cheerleader on a winning team. So thank you, guys, and thank you to the coaching staff.
Well, I don't have much, because I'm kind of like the rest of us. We don't really remember everything, but I do have lots of good memories about the community following us, and just being able to cheer in front of the community like we did, like Connie said. But it was a great year. Lots of good memories, lots of good friends made, and cheering was fun. It was one of my highlights of my life, was being a cheerleader. But something else is, we talk about the class of 72, but our class of 73 is absolutely wonderful, with Ron and Chuck, all of you, Don, that organized all this. We do the same thing at our reunions, so they're a lot of fun to come to and be a part of. So not only 72 was great, but 73 was good too. Maybe not as good in basketball and that, or 73. But it's still we had a good 2 years, a great time when we had the community following us, and just everything. So thanks for all the memories, all of you, everybody that participated and was a part of it. We appreciate it.
And the girls at our table were talking about, we are astounded at how much you men remember, the little details. And we also mentioned that we all have husbands, and we know for a fact you don't remember what you did yesterday. You remember this. Amazing. It was a good season. And as we started to win and started to talk about the tournament journey, I remember we had to explain to some of our classmates the tournament, how the tournament worked, regional, because we had never been down that road before. You guys in 8th grade might have been down, but I didn't go to grade school at Woodland, so a lot of the people I talked to, we had no idea what was going on. The local newspaper, back when they had a local newspaper, and would send their photographer out to Woodland all the time. Do you remember this? We were always getting our picture taken. We were in the paper all the time. The community actually started to recognize us. We were famous. I mean, it was something.
You're still famous.
We're still famous. That's right.
For other reasons.
Yeah.
For other reasons.
Yeah. So when we beat Chicago Christian in the super sectional game, that was on a Tuesday night, I believe. So after we took the ride back to Woodland on the bus, they gathered us cheerleaders in the office. I mean, we were bouncing off the walls. And I remember them telling us, you have to be ready to leave for Champaign on Thursday. I mean, we were like shocked. Thursday? That's the day after tomorrow. Yeah. And The JV cheerleaders went with us, and we went in a little minivan that I don't remember ever riding in before. And when we got down there, we had an organized dinner at a hotel somewhere with the team. And I've often thought back and wondered, who were the people behind the scenes who hurriedly put all this together? Someone did. Many people did. There were many people behind the scenes that helped us along the way. I'd like to give a shout out as well to the incredible Sharon Groom. She handled us through this whole thing. And as many of you girls remember, she was also our PE teacher. Let's just say it was a different time back then, and she didn't talk to us like our mamas do. She was tough. And I know I'm your favorite. Okay, so after the tournament, everyone would invite us, the coaches, the cheerleaders team. We went to lunch and we went to dinner. Do you remember we would cut school and we'd go to the Rotary Club have us for lunch. Then the Kiwanis Club had for lunch, and the Reading Fire Department had us for dinner. I mean, again, we were known. Streator High was about 4 times bigger than us at that time period. And despite the concept of us being rivals, we never played each other. They were really behind us once this got going, and the whole community was behind us. It was indeed a whirlwind. And if I have my dates correct by what was in the paper the other night, the regional was around February 24th, and we were at state by March 10th. It was really a fabulous time. You know when you have a really big event and everyone in your family is happy and you've got a big day and everyone around you is happy? We had months of being happy, and that's what I remember. The community was happy, our school was happy, the friends were happy. We were indeed blessed to be part of this. Not many people get to experience what we got to experience. But at the end of the day, the hard work of the coaches and the team earned the respect of the community. And with that respect came confidence. And I hope you all agree, we're a really confident group. So, thank you.
Some of you may remember the words, some of you may not. If not, just
pass
come
it out.
along.
Yeah,
But,
just hum along.
Yeah.
I don't even know, do I remember the motions?
Loyal and true, we pledge allegiance to you. This is our motto. We are one for all and all for alma mater. Here's to our school, and on high may she rule. Forevermore you will find us, always loyal and true. WWOODLLAND, Woodland, Woodland, Woodland! And on high may she rule. Forevermore you will find us, always loyal and true. WWOODLLAND, Woodland, Woodland, Woodland!
I was on the other side of this kind of, since I was a teacher at Woodland at that time, and I would, like the people that's been before me up here, thank the community because they really did support us out there. But I really want to talk about school because that's where I was interested with this group, and I can tell you that that was one heck of a good school year. Now, that was a good group of kids, but we really had things going at school at that time. You didn't have to worry about that group. They weren't getting in trouble or anything. They might have been ornery, but they weren't getting in trouble and so on. And it was really a good group to work with from the educational standpoint. From the part that we were here, from the coaching standpoint, Coach Ross and Lathrop and myself, I did coach the freshmen out at Woodland at one time. And so we talked a lot. And I will say this, that Coach Ross was very good. a smart and very good basketball coach. And I will say this also, that the kids that played for him, or the boys that played for him, made him smart because they bought into what he wanted to do, and they did it. And that's why they were successful as far as I'm concerned, because we had a lot of talent, but we probably didn't have as much as some of these other schools that we were taking care of. And so many times we talked about at school, the coaches, Roy and Jerry and I, and about things. And if he put them in, this group could take care of it and make it work during the game. And that's why they were successful in my mind and so on, because they just worked together and everything worked out fine. A story or two, I didn't bring it up, but I think I remember it. And the cheerleaders didn't bring it up, but remember we had pep sessions before the ball games, and if you ever recall, Coach Ross always called me up before, at the end of or before the pep rally was over, and we had to dress up. I mean, I was dressed very well for me. And I remember after we won that ball game and we were going to go to Champaign, I went out and bought a new sport coat to wear at that pep rally and so on. And I had an idea, a motion in my mind to get it out and wear it again today. But I didn't. Anyway, that was a big part of it. And then, of course, my neighbor had to make the last shot to take us down there. And so I can remember standing up in the bleachers just like everyone else and saying, "Go in, ball, go in, ball," and it did. So that took us down there, and we had a great time in Champaign also. But it was a great period of time in my life, and some of the things I don't remember, but most of them I do.
Yeah, I'm the poem nerd. I remember that pep assembly. I actually had to read it in front of Mayor Bacaller, who came out to the pep assembly before we went to state. But it was a fantastic year and so much fun. Besides being a book nerd, I was also a sports nerd and just absolutely worshipped and loved this team. But I remember the Toluca game, and I wish somebody had a picture of it because the cheerleaders did the best bulletin board ever at the end of the hallway that said, "Starring Chuck Rolinski in his last performance of My Three Rinkers." Do you guys remember doing that? Okay, Sandy Drew. Well, that doesn't surprise me. It was awesome. And Connie and I went at the end of junior year to Girls State down in Jacksonville, Illinois. And I happened to have a roommate from Toluca. So I had a lot of fun harassing her. And then after state tournament, if you remember when we played Lexington, we tied them in the conference. We lost a game, we won a game. And we went on to state, and they lost their first game in the regional. I went to Lexington's prom that year. And my date said, "What kind of flowers would you like?" And I said, "A white mum with a black W." Well, he refused. I got roses, but we doubled with a basketball player and a cheerleader. I was home very early that night. But I'm just so glad to be here with all of you. The energy in the room and seeing and sharing the memories of such a special time and the teachers who cared for us. And yeah, I'm sorry I'm the poem nerd, but I'm so happy to have worked on this with some amazing guys and so glad to see such a great turnout. So thank you for the memories. We still carry them in our heart.
Hi, I'm Catherine Jenkins, but you knew me 30 years before I married Jim Jenkins when I was Kathy Ross, English teacher and coach's wife at Woodland High. Oh, what fond memories I have of Woodland. The faculty and staff were dedicated and fun. The parents and community were so supportive. The students and fans were bright and enthusiastic. The assistant coaches, the managers, scorekeepers, statistician, cheerleaders, and oh, that varsity basketball team. Each one so memorable and so loved. Early on, Jerry realized that maybe speed wasn't the team's biggest asset. So he knew how smart they all were and how coachable. He said to them, anytime you keep the other team to under 40 points, come over to our house for a meal on the weekend. I think they were at our house every single weekend. Who knew a bunch of skinny kids could eat that much? But we loved having them. That was the same year I was pregnant with Tim. I was also the chaperone to the away game fan bus. Little did I know that the bus driver, before every game, would study his first aid handbook chapter about emergency childbirth, just in case. Luckily, Tim waited till April to be born. 2 years later, we had Jay, his brother. Both of them are in their 40s now, with families of their own. Tim, his wife Jill, and daughter Cameron live in Dallas. Jay, his wife Katie, their son Jake, and 2 daughters, Frankie and Addie, live in the Woodlands near Houston, near Jerry. It's crazy for me to think that you kids are old enough to have grandchildren of your own. Please drop me a line. Don Mounts has my contact information. And let me know what you've been up to over the last 50 years. I'd love to hear from you. I was so sad to hear about the members whom we have lost over the years. They will stay 18 years old in my heart, as you will. Thank you for inviting me to your 50th celebration. I'm so sorry I'm not able to attend. Ask me to the 75th. Promise I'll be there. In the meantime, stay safe and be happy. Love you all. Go Warriors.
Tim is coming up. I have to share a story about his father, which Tim's probably never heard either. We were practicing football. We had a special play come in. I played center. I was going to pull out, lead Joe Kudrick around the outside. And Donnie Long was the guard. So we set this play up. Roy Lathrop's playing quarterback. He's going to show Jerry and everybody how to run the play. So I hiked the ball, and he says, "Damn it, Donnie." And I turned around to say what, and he was mad at Don Long because he jumped off sides. He fired the ball at Don's helmet. It ricocheted off Don's helmet and hit me where no man should ever be hit. So I'm on the ground. I'm terrible. Lathrop's half laughing, half crying. Finally get up and he says, "All right, let's try it again." So we get up and try it again. I hike it. Long jumps off sides again. And I'm not going near this, so I walk over to the other side. Lathrop threw the ball in the ground, and it hit me again. And so then practice is over. Coach Groom comes over, and he says, "All right, everybody do 4 laps and go in." And I looked at Lathrop, and I said, "Is he kidding?" And Lathrop said, just walk. So that was your father. Tim, please tell us about your dad.
Just so you know, he planned those shots. For those who don't recognize me, I am Tim Lathrop, and I just want to say that, you know, when I was in high school, anytime I would meet someone from Woodland, because much to my embarrassment and shame, I went to Streeter High School, but anytime I met someone from Woodland, I would introduce myself as Tim Lathrop, and they would say, "You mean like Mr. Lathrop?" And I would, of course, answer, "If you mean Mr. Roy Lathrop, then yes, that's my dad." And from that point on, I got much respect that I did not deserve. A lot of the things said here today made me want to say some other things. First off, I'd like to rebut some things that Chuck said. As far as being one of Mr. Lathrop's boys and getting away with things and having him look the other way, as one of Mr. Lathrop's boys, he did not look the other way.
Your mom said he liked me better than you anyway.
Probably. And she wouldn't lie. Mainly, the things I wanted to say were a lot of talk gets said about groups being a family. And Woodland was my dad's second family. Everybody there, not just the athletes, all the students, all the faculty, were family, and they were for us as well. I was 3.5 years old in 1972. I don't have a lot of memories of the tournament. I remember that sweatshirt because I took it with me when I went to college. We were that proud of our dad that stayed with us that long. As far as family goes, Buzz spoke at my wedding much like he did here tonight. He just walked up and took the mic. The main thing about my dad and Woodland and his Woodland family is he loved you all. And he wanted nothing more than for you to be successful. And when you guys did this, he couldn't have been prouder. I don't know you all, but I love you all. Thank you.
Can you imagine high school, game day, every morning? How did we get educated? The morning of every big game, we were shredding paper and stuffing it in garbage bags. Does everybody remember that? That was like the whole first period. And then I had Mr. Lathrop for second period, which meant all we got to talk about is basketball. It was a great day for high school because I didn't want to learn either. That's my story.
I quit the team the year before they went to state. I had Mr. Stillwell, and we went to on-the-job training. So for 2.5 years, I went to work at Model Paris, and that's where I met my wife. So that's how my life changed. If I would have stayed on the team, it might never happen. But while working at Model Paris, every week I had to wash those stinking lavender towels. And you would not believe what all I found in them towels. It was scary. But I was on the team that went to the state and grade school, and I do have that sweatshirt, and if I got it over my head in the bottom, that's as far as it would go. So I just thought I'd say that, but I'm still proud of every one of those guys, so thank you.
Well, I have the great fond memories of that whole year in the basketball season, and I want to thank you guys, everybody involved, for those memories. It's been fun reminiscing today, and this has just been really great. And I do want to say that now that I live in Davenport, Iowa, I know where Thompson, Illinois is. It's only 50 miles from where I live. It's up the river a ways. Who ever heard of that back in 1972, right? Right? Yeah, so it's over there on the Mississippi River. It's a nice little town, really. But anyway, that's my story.
Just areas of remembrance, as Jerry said, we went to the regional. Tonica beat Cornell, Winona beat Flanagan, Loston beat MDR. We had, as a team, I think I've got this right, 7 games that we won by 2 or less points. We played tough ball. And we ended up winning that regional. And again, unfortunately, our friends at Lexington, we beat Tonica 63-51, and then we beat Loston 70-52. Our friends from Lexington went to the Fairbury Regional, and their first game was against Normal U High, and they lost 85-59. So a little bit of taking back some pride there. In the regional tournament at Herscher, Chicago Christian knocked off St. Anne. Jack Sikma was still on that team, but Chicago Christian beat them that year. And went on and also beat Marseilles. Didn't realize Marseilles had gone that far. And so they had quite a battle between Nort and Sikma, and Nort got him that time. Thompson, which Chris said's up on the Mississippi River, Thompson ended up beating Lanark by 1 point to advance to beat Galena. They beat Galena by 6 points. Thompson, if you did not know, no longer exists as a school district. They've been merged into a county-wide system. I know because when we're doing some research trying to track down videotapes, talk to the Illinois State High School Athletic Association, there's only 2 games that they do not have on file in their whole archives from like 1970. And it's the first 2 games of our Class A tournament. We played the second game, so they don't have those 2. So I'm hoping we might be able to get this copy of ours to IHSA so they may be able to put it in their archives. But Thompson no longer exists, and the superintendent of Thompson asked me if she could get a copy of it too if we ever found one. So I may be nice. I may be nice. In the sectional tournament at Winona, Princeville had a really good team. And Princeville beat Tuscarawas 78-58. We knocked off Toluca 52-48. Beat them 52-48. And then Princeville, which I think to the players, I think Princeville may have been the best game you played all year. Princeville was a great game. And we beat Princeville 60-58 to advance to the super sectional. Scoring against Toluca. Hi, Jerry, you were the top scorer against Toluca. Did you know that? Yeah, you had 16 points. Adams, you had 13. John, you had 11. Jimmy, you had 6. Ron, you had 6. Against Princeville. Geez, Larry, what happened? You had 26 points, Larry, against Princeville. Ooh, he's an animal. He's an animal. Jim Kern had 12. Johnny Weiss, 11. Jerry, 9. Chuck Hayward had 2. And we get to the super sectional. And it was 52-51 in overtime. We got to the state tournament with Thompson, and that was a great game. Close game, tied quite a bit until the last minute and 40 seconds. And then, Larry, I think you fouled out, didn't you? Somebody fouled out. Who was it that fouled out? It may have been Jim. Jim always fouled out. Jim always fouled. But we were fouling people to get the ball back, and they made their free throws, and we turned it over, and it just went to hell. But it was a really close game. We ended up losing 72-56. In the Chicago Christian game, let's see here. Larry had 14 points. Jerry had 4. What'd you do? Jimmy Kern had 20. Boom. Ron had 2. John had 12. And they held Rob Kloss, the All-American from Northwestern, to 8 points. And Don Nort, unfortunately, had 20. But we ended up getting by them anyway. In conclusion, just that the memories that you have from these things. I always tell my students in school, my students in college, don't let what you did in high school limit or define the rest of your life. You've got a lot of life to live. But the other side of the coin that we exemplify is don't forget how damn good it is when you succeed early. And this team succeeded early. They created an atmosphere that lives on to this day, which is shown by the fine people in this room. On behalf of the team, on behalf of the cheerleaders, on behalf of the coaches, and everyone else involved, thank you for coming out and sharing this time with us and sharing the memories. And as a special parting gift, We also want to thank Mr. Hendris, who is our principal, who's no longer with us, Mr. Dolio, our superintendent, no longer with us, and also special prayers to Jerry Ross in the care home that he's with in Houston, and Kathy Ross Jenkins. If you've not been on the Facebook page to see the page from the post from David Reed, who was our assistant manager, and Dave lives out in Arizona with me, so I'll be filling him on all the stories. And also Mrs. Ross, who does a magnificent video. If you've not seen that, please do. And then there's also a nice heart-wrenching video from Mr. Ross. So please look at that on Facebook. Keep everybody in your prayers and thoughts, and thank you for coming today. Spin move between the legs, down the baseline, puts up a reverse layup over. Wayne Goodyear from Lexington. They coach is aiming at Colin Moore. No! And the ball drops in and we win the game. And I'm sitting behind him and I said, hey coach, that's not what you're saying, it's deception.
Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, we would like to recognize and pay tribute to the most accomplished men's basketball team in Woodland High School history. In 1972, a group of young men raised on hard work and coached on the fundamentals of the game made one of the most unprecedented runs in program history. Now, in the 50th year since that season, the Woodland community would like to welcome back your 1972 Woodland Warriors!
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Don Mounts, and I had the privilege of being the statistician for the 72 team, and I'm also a member of the class of 73, the best class in the history of Woodland. And I am also a member of the Woodland Education Foundation Hall of Fame, which I'm very proud of that. Thank you very much. We want to recognize tonight all of the members of the team, the coaching staff, and also the management and the cheerleading squad for your Woodland Warriors for 1972's team. I'm going to step out here a little bit so I can see each as we go down the line. I want to introduce them to you. One of the freshman coaches on the team years ago, and our longtime football coach, Mr. Buzz Broom. Buzz? One of our great cheerleaders, Barbara Spaniel Willoughby. We have lost a few members of our great organization, but representing tonight, Miss Sandy Van Duzer Laversa is her daughter and the daughter of Jerry as well. We want to wish Carrie Highland Sullivan to step forward for the moment. and Connie Yuki Lechner. The coach of our cheerleading squad, Mrs. Sharon Broom. We have two assistant coaches that are no longer with us. One of which is Mr. Jim Moorfield, who was our chief scout and did a terrific job of doing preparation for all of our games that year. The other was the assistant coach, Mr. Roy Lathrop. Representing Mr. Lathrop tonight is his son, Tim. Now getting into a few of the ball players here. First up on the list, and the man who really helped organize a lot of these activities with the Woodland Athletic Department and with all of us to get us here. I live in Arizona, and for me to come back here in January was not easy to do, but our friend Chuck Glisson got us all back here. And one of my very best friends, who's no longer with us, was a great player. Under this spot, he did a little pirouette reverse layup in the final seconds to beat Lexington by 1 point right here. And Don Wampler is no longer with us, but representing Don is his brother Bob. Bob? Our assistant manager, Dr. David Reed, is in Phoenix. He couldn't join us today, but our manager, Mike Hatcher, is here. Mike. Another one of our departed players, we're very proud to have him here, as well as his entire family, my friend Kathy, all of his daughters, and he is the spitting image of his father, Joe Goodrick Jr. Another one of our departed members, Mr. Dave Henson, represented today by his brother Dennis. More members of the team, and they were a great team. Mr. Paul Reitz. Next in line, Mr. Chuck Hayward. And I'm always happy to say my brother from another mother, my friend Jerry Highland. Next up, one of the other organizers of this event, and did a terrific job, especially with our shirts. Don't these look spiffy? Yeah. These look good, huh? Mr. Ron Tombo. And the owner of that sweet jump shot, Mr. Larry Adams. Next up, Mr. Jim Kern. And last but not least, the man who hit the winning shot against Chicago Christian at Pontiac. They're celebrating already. Took us to the state final 8, Mr. John Weiss. Ladies and gentlemen, we have some of our members that couldn't be here tonight. We want to recognize them. Two of our cheerleaders, Rhonda Wargo Liebert and Deb Vargochik, could not make it, so we think of them also. Our assistant manager, Dr. David Reed, and our assistant statistician, Mr. Darrell Crow, could not make it tonight. Two of our players were unable to make it, Mr. Jim Dolio and Mr. Jerry Young. A couple of other prominent folks who are no longer with us, I'm sorry to say. Our principal, Mr. Don Hendris, and our superintendent, Mr. Jim Doleo. Someone who could not join us tonight is still around down in the Gridley area, our timekeeper and bus driver, Mr. Ken Johnson. And last but not least, we encourage you to go to our Facebook site to hear from our team mom, Miss Kathy Ross Jenkins. She's retired in Dallas, and we wish Miss Jenkins could have been here with us, but she could not. And her husband, who's in a facility in Houston, Texas, and his sons. And if you get a chance to go onto the Facebook page we set up, we've got some videos there of Dr. Reed and Miss Jenkins, and also our fine basketball coach, Mr. Jerry Ross. And we have a special gift out in the area here. If you've not done so yet, we have tickets that we're selling. All of the players that are here sign the basketball. It's a one-of-a-kind, one-time only. And we're selling chances out there with the funds to go to the Woodland Education Foundation. So please make sure to buy a ticket, all right? And last but not least, we're going to have a little photo session down here at this end for a second. But one more time for the 72 Woodland Warriors.